This video is just a comprehension video for somebody that I had just a couple of comments. It was on an Arvin Ash video, and it really has to do with the idea that with quantum mechanics and the observer effect, that when you're not looking at things, it goes back into a quantum state, and it no longer exists until you observe it. And I want to talk about this. That's a rabbit hole I went down long ago, but let's read what this... My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Let's read what the comment is here first, and come up with a response here. All right, he was talking on an Arvin Ash video, which I'm not going to talk about here. It's just this comment that I read, and I thought, oh yeah, I see this all the time. It's a big deal. It needs to be addressed. All right, things cease to exist when you're not looking at them. Quantum mechanics says so itself, he says. They are in a superposition of states. The universe works like a big computer game. It only renders the stuff that matters to the observer, and that includes other people. When they disappear from view, they cease to exist quite literally. You maintain their story because there is no story except in the continuity of your consciousness. There is nothing outside except noise, pure randomness. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't hear anybody else ever say that, not even Donald Hoffman. We'll talk about his stuff. I presented him a thought experiment. He said, "It's not me talking, it's science. Things cease to exist when you're not looking at them. Quantum mechanics." I told him I'm going to respond in a video just for you on this growing and silly viewpoint. He says, "Okay, convince yourself of that. You'll get there eventually." All right, you'll get there eventually. Those are the kind of things you realize. All right, I'm talking to this kind of a cult mind sort of a thing. The Earth is flat. No, it's not. It's round. Oh, you'll get there eventually. Jesus is coming back. Can you demonstrate that? Oh, you're stupid. You don't get it. You know, people will say things, and if you start questioning things, they just, yeah, you'll get there when you get there. They don't have any explanations. This is somebody that just believes something, and they have no way of explaining why they believe it or understanding it. They really don't grasp it. They're just taking something and saying, here's what it means. All right, what I want to do is take a look at something here, what AI says about this. To address the question of whether things disappear when not observed, consider the following points. Quantum mechanics suggests that particles exist in a state of probability until observed. That's what you're doing right there. You are saying because of this statement, quantum mechanics suggests particles, mass, matter, everything that is out there are only in a state of probability. They're just an energy wave until you observe them. That's how you're reading this. Classical physics maintains that objects continue to exist regardless of observation. The observer effect in quantum physics indicates measurement, how measurement affects a system but does not imply disappearance. Philosophical interpretations like solipsism argue reality is dependent upon perception, but this is debate. Yeah, that's just philosophical. That's not science. Everyday experience confirms that objects remain present when not directly observed. Scientific consensus leans towards the idea that reality exists independently of observation. Okay, so you saying quantum mechanics states that what you stated is not true. Just look it up. It says that's a measurement. That has to do with how we measure things. That's not what really happens. Okay, you're not putting any thought into what you're doing. I want to ask you something else. What are you made out of? What are humans made of? What's life made of? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, a tablespoonful of metals and salts, a couple of minerals. Where were those in the early universe? The things that make me up as a human with a brain that has the capacity to be conscious and observe. Where did I come from? I am made up of chemicals from the universe that didn't even exist when the universe first began. The universe that we're in, this iteration of whatever. Our universe, known universe. The elements weren't even there. Who observed those into existence so that we could eventually come into existence? But who's doing that? Who's observing us into existence that when we come around, we now observe it into existence? You're inside out. You think that you are the creator of the universe if you stop and think about it. And I don't mean God. I mean somebody that the universe doesn't exist unless you're conscious and aware of it. All right. That's how you would measure it in your brain. When you're sleeping, as far as you're concerned, the universe doesn't exist. But as far as the universe is concerned, it doesn't give a rat's behind about your sleeping and your awareness. It's still going to exist. It does not need you to look at it for it to be real. And quantum mechanics does not state that everything goes into a quantum state, the moon, all that kind of stuff. Now, Donald Hoffman, I don't remember his book. I bought it years ago. I went down that rabbit hole. His idea, and what we're doing here, honestly, where these theories come from is the idea that there's something in the universe that's out of balance. We can't figure it out. There's dark matter, dark energy, there's theories, cosmological constant. We're trying to figure out why, when we observe things in our three-dimensional world, they don't quite seem quite right. They don't measure up. Okay, so people come up with ideas. Donald Hoffman came up with a theory. It was his idea, but he's keeping it all in a three-dimensional region, our existence. And his idea was that things exist as like a desktop icon, more or less. And that if you, like the moon is sitting there as there's not enough region or something in space for everything to be there. I don't remember the details of this part of the science. But basically the idea was that it's like a program. The moon is like a program in the background, and when you observe it, it opens it up. But when you're not looking at it, it shrinks back to just an icon. You're saying it disappears completely. It has to be, Hoffman would have to be more accurate. And the reason is because if I observe, if that was the case, if, you got to think these things through. If that was indeed true, if I observe the moon right there, and then I look away and it's gone, it just goes back into a field of energy. And then I look back and it's there again. Why is it always at that spot or doing this? How come when everybody looks at it, it's in the same region? There must be an icon there. It doesn't, you don't look at there and see the moon and then, oh, I'm going to look over there and see the moon. I can see it in my imagination, but it's not really there. It's not physically there, okay? This is measurement. It's perception. You may not see it, but it is not gone. It is gone from up here, but it's not gone from out there. We do not create the universe. The universe, we're products, downstream products, matter in an energy-based universe. We're its flotsam. We're not its creator. We're its offspring, not its daddy. You must understand also that there's a difference between quantum mechanics, the science there, and the standard model of physics. We exist in the standard model. We are emergent from the quantum, but that doesn't mean we're functioning at a level of quantum. That is so small we can't even get to it. We can barely grasp that this has more space in it than it has molecules. We can't even get there. And quantum is way, way smaller than that. So, I mean, yeah, you're really looking at things with such simplicity. It's a lot more complex than that. All right. I guess I had to address that. And then the whole, you'll get there when you get there. Get where? What do you got? And you're even blabbering, I don't say so. Quantum mechanics does. Go look up quantum mechanics. You're going to find out you didn't lie. What you're doing is passing along something that is incorrect because you don't know. And then you're going to arrogantly tell people you'll get there when you get there. You better do your research. Get off the high horse. It's a broomstick pony, dude. Stop and think about it. If you or anybody dies, does the universe disappear? I mean, there's other people observing it, of course, but the reality of it is that it does disappear. But it disappears in your perception, in your capacity to measure it. Why? You're gone. You're dead. The universe is still there. You are from the universe. The universe is not from you. I don't know why that is just not so. Spend some time thinking through and processing. You should come to those conclusions. The problem is people get into this. They don't have those cognitive skills. They just jump in and listen. I like the sounds of this. And they don't think it through. If you did think it through, it would fall apart. That's why you go down rabbit holes to learn what life is about. But if you stay there, you're really not learning. You quit learning right at that point. You quit learning and then telling me, I mean, from your point of ego that doesn't know anything, that I'll get there someday. When you haven't even done anything. You're just listening to somebody and regurgitating something that isn't even right if you just bothered to Google it. You're telling people bullshit. You think it's true. It's bullshit. All right, everybody. The world is in trouble. Billions of people think just like that, or don't think just like that. Reality is gone. See you in the next video.